We are live. Grant Crowell, we are here virtually, although we're actually not that far apart, maybe about a half an hour drive from each other. And you tomorrow have an event in Chicago all about ADHD and social media.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric Chivers. I'm first off so glad to be part of the ADHD reWired community, and I'm looking forward to sharing what I think is a somewhat unique event as part of Social Media Week Chicago. This event is called Social Media and ADHD: Turning Distractions into Directions. This is my third year speaking at this event, and it's actually the first event that I'm hosting. It's happening in downtown Chicago at the Catalyst Ranch. That's 656 West Randolph Street in Chicago. The event happens tomorrow, Tuesday, from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And basically, a little bit about Social Media Week. They are an organization. That holds worldwide events around. I mean worldwide across five continents: in North America, Europe, South America, Africa, and Asia. And the whole point, of this type of event they have at this time of the year is just to provide the best information, ideas, and inspiration to help people understand how to achieve more in a hyper-connected world. Now, that's the line on their site at Social Media Week.
If someone wanted to come and check out this event at the Catalyst Ranch tomorrow, first of all, does it cost any money?
It is free.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. And why would someone want to go? What's this ADHD? There's all kinds of stuff going on. Why would it be worth for someone who's maybe in the area to come check it out?
Actually, I was hoping you could answer that for me. I'm just kidding. I think there is great enthusiasm around this. I think a lot of people with ADHD, and I think a lot of people who work in social media, and just a lot of people who are users of social media, are starting to find connections, relationships between how they are online and how they behave organically and how they notice changes in their behaviors. What I've found as
somebody... Can you give us an example of that?
Sure. All right. Well, for one example is with social media, we can have a tendency, when you're an active user on it, to know how to be more responsive. And in some areas, like in work, where you're expected to multitask, being able to do those kind of things, those short bursts of attention, can, in a sense, just quick thinking, multiple items. And what we see on social media? We get pinged. We get lots of distractions. We get, look at me now, look at me now, look at me now. And even when we're not on them, we think we got to look at it now, like checking our phones how many times. Taking our email like it's a slot machine. We've conditioned ourselves, and I truly believe, as somebody who I've seen a lot of people in the workplaces I've been in, that I've seen people who would never normally associate themselves with anything having to do with ADHD displaying behaviors. And by that, I mean losing focus more easily, being easily distracted, engaging in impulsive behavior. In some areas, I even find being hypersensitive to things, and all things that I found indicative of people who are genetically disposed of this. And what I'm going to be saying is I do believe, and from examples and stories that I have, is that people, if they're subject to being in an always-on world and not being mindful and not developing habits to manage their use of the internet, and especially social media, they will be more likely to fall in the same traps that ADHD people are when they don't recognize their conditions, when they don't treat their conditions. I used to work in the social media department for a major B2B company, an IT company, and I sat next to a mom who
Wait, what does a social look like?
What does social and IT look to company?
IT department, yes.
Oh, okay. There's just robots that just go boop boop beep to each other. That's it. There's nothing human about it. What does it look like in IT department? Well, that's an interesting question, because think about it. There are IT people on the far engineering end who sometimes lack social skills but very smart, but can relate to their fellow IT people, especially those who might be specialists in cloud computing, networking, security, but then again don't exactly know how to communicate that well to people who aren't like them. That's a lack of emotional intelligence there. Can be very good at what they do, but may sometimes really just lack the ability to communicate. This is a problem I find people have with going on email, going on instant message, and a lot on social media, because we don't get the same cues that we do when we're face to face with somebody, or even when we get to hear them.
Mm-hmm.
We end up making lots of mistakes. That's something that I've done, but I've noticed it so often in what other people do.
So what kind of mistakes do people make on social media, Grant?
Okay, Eric. Well, the type of mistakes that people make, I almost feel like there should be a monkey here in the picture. Well, for example,
That would just be crazy.
That would just be crazy. All right. Okay, but what is the show except not crazy? For example, doing things such as typing in caps too much. Why
would people do that?
Or that is that you just gave the audio example of typing in caps, or sending out. I'll say ADHD people are so guilty of this. Long emails, having to get everything out of their head. Email is not meant for that. Email is all. One time I had to deal with, of all people, a web analytics person who was sending me 30 emails on something that should have been reserved for one IM conversation. I said, "Shut up already." So not knowing how to use digital culture. Or here's a good example. If you're on LinkedIn and people want to connect with you, but they don't want to have a conversation, they just want to spam you with sales stuff, or they just do the form connection of, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn, but there's actually no business relationship, no personal relationship. You've never talked before. And that is, people who are disconnected in a hyper-connected world. Those are just some examples of what we'll be able to focus.
I was actually suggesting that there may have been a social media mistake made by somebody who's putting on this event. That mistake was made today?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Eric. I am a saint. I'm going to use that fundament because that was I made 2 mistakes today. Maybe it might have been yesterday, but this mistake was I was announcing this event in a coaching group when it was actually meant to be some of the community. And with any kind of community, you always want to make sure that you're not trying, and because I say this myself, you're not trying to be promotional, you're not trying to do affiliate marketing, that you're an actual member of the group. But at the same time, you should always check with the moderator on what is appropriate, and so it doesn't get too spammy with everybody doing their own promos there. I made that mistake, but you know what I made a mistake on the opposite end? On Facebook, when I was doing my 3 goals in 30 seconds, I posted it to everyone and not the coaching group. So I got some strange response from people saying, "Yeah, Grant, that's interesting. You needed to share that with us." Like, oh crap, face palm. But, this happens with not being mindful of, and we're always going to make mistakes. And I think we just have to fail so that we can learn. And by talking about and sharing these things, it makes us more mindful and building a system. But it's not about being perfect. It's not even about being great. It's just about being understanding when other people do it, that don't read too much of your own emotions into what other people are doing.
Being human. Are you there? Are you frozen? Either you are having a very, very good poker face, or your video feed just froze. Grant?
Being digitally human.
Hey, Grant?
Soft skills for a hard digital world.
You were cutting out there.
I can hear you. Yes. Shit. Oh, yeah. I'm cutting out. I hope you can edit. Want to start this again? I know what happened. An app got in the way.
This is live. This is all live.
It's all live.
So 3 mistakes.
3 mistakes. This was a technical mistake. Maybe this was apropos. Here's why. What people don't know sometimes, okay? Even when we're doing audio, like with Skype, the bandwidth slows down sometimes, even with Google Hangouts. So even when you're trying to listen to somebody, all of a sudden you miss stuff, and then it speeds up fast, and there are certain parts of the conversation that become disconnected. What happened right now is I actually had my journal app that just showed up automated to remind me to write something right now. But when that happened, then kablooey went our conversation, and now we lost our feed for a bit. Technology sometimes gets in the way from human interaction. Yeah. And that's what's caused some mistakes. Like, for example, what if you're having an IM conversation with somebody? Maybe you're not on the best of terms. Maybe it's like, okay, a girlfriend that you're close to breaking up with, and then all of a sudden, while you're conversing, you don't hear from that person. You're thinking they're blowing you off. Crap, you B, capital D, lowercase b, and they're saying A, lowercase a to you, when all along there was nothing malicious, nothing negligent intended. It was the technology failing the ability to carry on a relationship. That happens. It's just hard to accept that when you're already in an emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the kind of things that I want to say is sometimes how social media can be detrimental to building authentic relationships when we're not mindful of limitations of the technology.
I just had an idea because I've heard people talk about, you can change the colors of the font to express emotion. Well, that's it's cutesy and everything, and sort of a good idea, but in practicality, I don't think it's easy. But what our phones can do right now is they can take our heart rate. And so what if the devices were good enough where it can actually detect our heart rate while we're just holding our phone and typing and texting? So we can send along the rate of the heart rate, which can indicate our emotional state.
That won't necessarily be good. Here's why. My spouse has a high heart rate.
But
and
based on baseline, though.
If you already know so you're saying if it goes quite a bit higher,
yeah.
And then if it already knows, but here's the thing: are you saying you want to let somebody else know if you're excited, or is it to let you know that you're excited?
Well, that's also a good application for it.
Because I know what you're saying is there are things we can always do. The first thing you can do sometimes is you can look at yourself while you're talking. I mean, what I would coach people in online video, because I had a lot of people who would just need help with how they come across in a video, and sometimes tell them just have a mirror in front of you when you're on webcam, and that way you can be looking at yourself. Are you laughing? Do you look bored? Do you look upset? That's probably coming across in how you're talking, and sometimes even how you're having a conversation with somebody in instant message. These are things of how you can just pay attention better, and if you need something that makes you feel better, just have a photo. Yeah, just like there. You see, I made Eric nearly fall asleep. That's very good. See, I didn't need any kind of heart rate monitor. Eric is bored to tears of that. All righty. Now I know why he's got the monkey. Keep him awake through some of the more boring interviews, like episode 30, Grant Kroll. Well, I had to cut out 90% of this, and I had to have my monkey to keep me.
You know what's great about doing this live? I'm not editing 1 second of this.
I know.
It's just going up. So we get to take our bow and fail forward.
Okay, we're failing forward. I like that. I'm leaning backward while I'm failing forward, covering both angles here. These are the kind of things, though. I will say this. I love social media. I love the technology and all these things they can do, okay? It is amazing. I am just a person who I want to take the opportunity when I can to meet somebody at an event. If somebody just wants to always be behind the curtain, it doesn't interest me. People still need to make an effort. And with social comes the expectation of a conversation. And if you're going to put yourself out on any of these platforms, you have to be willing to make yourselves available to help, to converse, to take an interest in what other people do. It's really bad when people just want to broadcast, just like there are companies that turn off the comments on their YouTube channel. And I've been dealing with a few of those companies. Realize social is a promise, and if you take away the humanity, then people will just be disgusted by your brand, and people are more likely, we know this, more likely to be inspired to do stuff that talk about a negative experience than a positive experience. It's unfortunate, but that's the case. And those are great reasons to give people a reason to write a negative experience about your company. And here's what social is today. It's where the consumer is on a much more equal playing field as the brand, where the consumer can be doing their own kind of media, where they can build their own.
And we're so into these analytics to get feedback on what we're doing. There is no better analytic than the actual interaction with your customer.
Yeah, listen to them. That is called qualitative analytics. How am I doing? Yes. Here's a great example in the field of video. Is one of the most misleading things you'll see about video performance is views. Reason why is a lot of views can be two things. They can be bought, which you might see high video counts, but they don't show up in YouTube search results or the related searches, which is where you need to do if you're going to actually perform well. But they could also be left after seeing the first few seconds sometimes. Why? Somebody might have been showing up for certain keywords or trying to be doing some type of advertising that to woo people in, and found out this is a totally irrelevant experience. It's not helpful. It's not what was promised to me. But agencies will try to fool companies into thinking that, look at these high view counts. What you need to be understanding things like, how am I getting subscribers? Am I getting comments? Am I getting likes? Am I getting word of mouth? Right. Are you actually taking things further where they now come to your Facebook page, where they sign up for your email newsletter? I mean, it's a funnel thing, but that is what social is. Social business is relationships that convert. And if you're not being genuinely thinking about how to build relationships where people don't feel like they're being pushed into doing something, that you get them, then it's something that is sustainable and profitable. Otherwise, you are just making it another dumping ground.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's for entrepreneurs, for people who are doing any kind of online business. I just think that's such a valuable lesson for us all to learn. And we're still in so many ways still so new at all of this. Even the experts, they're maybe one step ahead from the people who are just kind of figuring this out.
Well, none of this is common sense. None of this is common sense, and that's the thing. But it also should open. That's why I'm doing this, is because I'm not claiming to be an expert. Even clinical psychologists can't claim to be an expert, because this is an area where I think we all have backgrounds in certain parts.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's going to take the combining of these parts, and I also think it's going to take things like case studies. For example, I would love to see something down the road of a medical center that might, scan the brain waves of two people, a neurotypical and ADHD person, but then subject the neurotypical person to incessant use of social media over a period of time, see if their brain waves, match the brain waves, or whatever you want to call them, the MRI scans of the ADHD person. I believe
those functional MRI scans, how the blood's flowing from the different regions.
I find stuff like that as a real compelling case on the side of neurology. But there's so much more in terms of just what people tell me. When women who I work with who will say, I have 2 kids, I have a hard time sleeping. These are things that we already associate with ADHD people. If you have problems with sleeping, like I did, I had sleep apnea and I had surgery for it. No wonder I was losing focus. Well, women who sometimes have young kids, young children, of course, are not going to be sleeping that well. And I've talked to several women, both in the working for large companies, but also entrepreneurs who have these same issues when they're also trying to do things like raise a family.
Mm-hmm.
Where I also find is their big concern for their children when this is the world that they've always grown up in. And is that going to have even much more of an effect on them? There are studies I followed where children in Korea, if they see that their Android device, or just say their smartphone, even kids have smartphones now, or their tablet is on low battery life, they get those things you're talking about. They get the feelings of great fear, of great anxiety, of sadness, of crying. I mean, making actual, emotional connections to digital devices. That's where I can see these things happening more and more and more, and I think that's why it's imperative for us to be talking about this now and seeing how can this be manageable.
Yeah, and instead of letting it actually be a tool for us versus this thing that's getting in the way. Have you seen that? There is a really great video that I think trended a while back on Facebook and on YouTube. It's called "Look Up." Have you seen that?
I have not seen that one.
Where it's awesome.
Oh, wait.
It's a story.
Now I have seen that. But tell us about it. Tell the audience about it. It's a great one.
Where this guy is just, they constantly looking down and they're in these different social communities where there's like friends sitting on a couch, but they're all looking down. And then there's basically 2 paths that could have occurred. One where the guy meets the girl and they fall in love and get married, and the other is where that doesn't happen because he was looking down at his phone. So, I think it's really, really powerful, and I think that a lot of people connected with that because, I've been hearing more and more people talking about doing the digital detoxes and just putting the phone down, and I got to tell you, it's got a big appeal to me. I try to be more mindful myself of not having that phone constantly, because I told you, if I'm bored for 2 seconds, here out comes the phone. It's like
out comes the phone. That's your digital pack of cigarettes. Is what it is.
It totally is.
And for me, as a guy who hated being around smokers, and I dealt with serious problems with secondhand smoke, it makes me think of that more and more of taking out your phone. I actually have the app Checky for seeing how many times did I check my phone. And I
That's
like that.
great. I never heard of that one.
Well, that's the nice thing about this event is people are going to see, along with the apps you've recommended that I've used and really like. There's some apps I've used for things like managing your email. But I think the biggest thing that I see today is the idea of checking your email, like the feeling of a slot machine. Like, let me just keep on. If you think you check it more and more, that somehow you're going to get better email. It's
You
a
know what?
strange thing.
I have the opposite problem. I don't check it enough.
You
I'll
don't
go
check it out.
I'll go 2 days without checking my email.
That what if on the
I hate
opposite end?
email.
You hate email, but then people have to know you well enough not to use email. There's nothing bad about that. I mean, I want to first share this with you. My spouse and I, we went on vacation to Michigan. We had a place called Munising, and we went about 7 miles out from which is already a country bumpkin road, so that we could get to Lake Superior, where there's just there's kayaking, there's just great water, but you will not get even a phone reception. And we were like that for 2 days. But we had part of it is we loved each other's conversation, but we hiked for 11 miles in the rain, took a lot of photos. Now it would be considered a pleasant experience for a lot of people, but I think you have to make yourself uncomfortable to really start to nurture the relationships and grow those relationships. Like for my spouse and I, we found, hey, we can be on an 11-mile hike when it's raining, when it's not all that pleasant. And she'll admit I'm much more athletic, so I'd want to be running that part. But for her, with a bad back, it's something that I have to slow down, help her stretch out. And that took us like about 5.5 hours to do with all the hiking and and just stopping. But it was great because it made us just really pay attention to each other and to things around us and to feel calm. We don't have to feel. Sometimes people are scared, in my opinion, of actually feeling a lack of anxiety. I think they actually feel a sense of comfort ultimately around feeling anxiety because I think it makes them feel like they're doing something. I think we just have to get used to, dare I say, like the comedian Louis C.K. said, get used to feeling bored.
I don't know if it's anxiety. I think people are afraid to feel bored.
Feeling bored to me is something that you don't really even need to feel bored if you already, in my opinion, know how to be doing things like meditate, knowing how to be thinking of what your day is going to be like, knowing how to be thinking of what the next day is going to be like. That to me, that takes patience. I haven't meditated for a long time, but what I do is I do running, and running lets me.
That's a form of meditation.
Yeah, it's an active form of meditation. It makes me feel good. It calms my ADHD down. I never realized when I was undiagnosed and untreated and I was a competitive distance runner in high school that my running was making me, even when I was pushing myself hard and getting my heart rate into the high 160s, I was still feeling calm. I was actually very, very focused. But I do believe that people are just so used to stimuli and that social media provides that it's uncomfortable to not have that. And that's where I say the feelings of anxiety come in from not having that. But at the same time, it creates anxiety to be on it. I mean, hence the idea of you getting your fix. It doesn't, might satiate you at the beginning, but then you have to feel more and more. And then with, again, what we get back to, the miscommunication now adds to feelings of frustration. So in a sense, it can polarize you from the very groups and people that you originally connected with because of it.
It's funny, you were saying earlier about how people write these really, really long emails, and again, I would say I'm kind of the opposite. I'm pretty good at writing the very, very, very brief, yes, send.
I would agree with you, but what I find out is that there is no one thing. I mean, there is no one thing that everyone does in ADHD.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more of a verbal processor, which is why I prefer like in our group to do when people are posting stuff. I would prefer to respond in video by talking, because that way I can think. Because when I'm typing, it's like I'm already 10 thoughts ahead, and my fingers are trying to catch up, and it's like I lost it.
So video, you cannot be talking 10 thoughts beyond what comes out of your mouth. Your mouth forces you to slow down. This is the vehicle, our mouths. We cannot be saying 10 words ahead at the same time of while we're talking. We are not that far advanced.
And it's funny because I have the tendency to be a mumbler.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really do. I can hear everything all at once. And I'll be in the car with my wife, and her favorite thing she'll say to me is, "What?"
I have a tendency to talk to myself out loud, and
See?
I always say the nice thing about schizophrenia is you always have an audience. But no, you know, what
Grant.
I want to talk to myself is to remind myself. I know, naughty Grant, naughty. That's why you're never going to see me leading a coaching group, are you? But this is really what we do. Certain things that are considered to be dorky on the outside, but it is our way of coping. Remember, there is a presentation you've seen called, you know, on how what I did on how geeks, nerds, and dorks can be awesome social citizens. And I would say, in a sense, it's something all ADHD people can identify with. A geek is your passion, a nerd is your expertise, and a dork is yourself. A geek is somebody who.
Oh, I love that. I like
yeah,
that.
you like that? Yeah. Just one quick example. A geek is
I just
somebody who
identified with all of that.
you identify that. Well, I call it the word Gurk. Now, when you come up with your own language, then you have a story to tell. Just like with ADHD, when you can come up with words like overthinkitis, when you, like for me, I have my own thing, you know, called grantasms, and they're either hybrid words or they just come out of experiences that you have. Like one gal, you know, Diane, who was posting about whiteboards, and you mentioned about, okay, put down there what you have to do tonight. I said, well, would that call it tonight board? And these are just fun little plays on things that make you remember a little more, add a unique story around it. But getting back to, you know, not just ADHD people, but I think all people today, and it's because of the always-on culture and the technology that can make us so hyper-connected. I think we can all identify as Gurks. And so much is thrown at us, so many expectations are ahead of us, typically, that we are going to fail. Let me give an example. A difference between a geek and a dork is a geek is someone who wears their Star Trek costume to a sci-fi convention. A dork is somebody who wears it to a funeral. The difference is dorks can be cute when they don't necessarily have to always worry about what other people think, but then sometimes it's really inappropriate, it's really awkward, it's really inconsiderate. And what's the difference? And I think it's what you teach, and I think other ADHD coaches teach, is to be mindful of social context.
Yes.
Is to just step back and be aware. Yeah, think a little bit. And the problem with social media is you're rewarded in business as well as impulsive. In news with social media, it's about being first rather than being thoughtful. In this case, in news, it's about being accurate, and that's the problem. This is an impulse system that rewards behavior that gets people in trouble, that hurts relationships.
Yeah.
And that's the downside that I want to explain in this type of event is there's a cost to, even if you do have the ability to do certain things, if there are certain things that might be of a sensitive nature. Like, here's a great example. On the Totally ADD Facebook page, when Rick Green was talking about, we don't really have, nobody really has ADHD, and I said, yeah, or quit faking, and then I showed him a video news clip of a psychologist on Chicago News talking about ADHD. That's a myth. And I was doing it tongue-in-cheek, and of course most people did it tongue-in-cheek. But there was one person in the group that believed that it was true, was really angry, so angry, said that they were quitting the group. And that was sort of one of the nature of the impulsive, emotional, and I've seen people at that point who are just
Rewind for
not
just
dealing with
10
things.
seconds because you were breaking up.
Oh, sure thing. So, getting back to the story of the individual who was hypersensitive, it's one of those things that sometimes you just have to qualify in the comment thread for that 1% sometimes who may not really understand, no, we're just being facetious here. Right. And just like if you're in a political argument, somebody might just go into a diatribe and then do name calling. Now, rather than going to their level, or just say, I respect the moderator's opinion. It's okay to disagree. And we're just, it's all about, hey, this is just a conversation we're having. This is where we need to evolve. There's always going to be people who love the flame wars, but my goal is to make more people who.
Yeah, those are the advertisers that are trying to get ratings.
Yeah, trying to get ratings, trying to appeal to the trolls, trying to appeal to the baser instincts of people, which is go into your tribes. Because when you get into your tribes and it's based on fear and anger, that's what motivates people to do certain things. That's the reality, and that's the unfortunate reality.
So Grant, we're way over on time. Are you surprised?
Yeah, who was the one who said 10 minutes? Wasn't me. Hey, wasn't me. I swear, man, it wasn't me.
Speaking of motivating people to take action, so give us one more time if someone wants to check out this event tomorrow,
Okay.
or even find out more about kind of what you're doing with your socially ADD and all this grant-tastic stuff, where can they
Right.
find us?
Where can they find this fantastic stuff? Okay, the event again is social media plus ADHD turning distractions in two directions. This is going to be held tomorrow, Tuesday, September 23rd, at the Catalyst Ranch at 656 West Randolph Street in Chicago. It starts at 6:30. I'm going to give people time to get settled in, 6:30, 8:30 p.m. Get to know each other for a bit, go in the speakers, have an individual Q&A, and then, just as we say in Hawaii, talk story. Let everybody, just in a group and just share our thoughts. So now, if you cannot make it in Chicago, then you can also go to this URL. It's at bit.ly/social ADHD. That is social ADHD. We will be making presentations available. We'll also be making resources available that we'll be talking about. We will also be video recording this event, so we'll be making sure to make that available publicly. And this is, there's no right now business goal, professional. The whole idea is to put something out that is unique, that can start a new conversation around something I think is really important, and something that personally affects me and a lot of people.
Well, Grant, thank you. I think this is a very interesting thing that you're kind of diving into and working on, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of what you do. Sorry I can't join you tomorrow. I wish I could. I have Toastmasters tomorrow.
Yes, you have a really important speech. It's about how I will rule the world, and that will be the best 6 minutes of your
In
life.
4 to 6 minutes, right?
In 4 to 6 minutes, what a master plan. Well, Eric, thank you.
Hopefully, with very few ums, ahs, and you knows.
Yes, but just bring your monkey, and it's all good. Eric, thank me the floor. I'm honored.
All right, thanks a lot, Grant. We'll see you in the community.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Monkey!